The Bell Witch Haunting. In 1817, in a small farming settlement outside Adams, Tennessee, a family began hearing sounds they could not explain. Knocking on the walls, chains dragging across the floorboards, something gnawing at the bedposts in the dark. John Bell, a respected landowner and devout Baptist, assumed it was animals. He checked the house. He checked the property. He found nothing. The sounds returned the following night, and every night after that. What followed over the next 4 years is the only case in American history in which a paranormal entity is documented to have caused the death of a person and identified itself as the cause. The Bell Farm sat on 328 acres of fertile land in Robertson County. John Bell ran it alongside his wife, Lucy, and their 9 children. By all accounts, they were an ordinary family in an ordinary place. Then, the ordinary stopped. The disturbances escalated in stages. First the sounds, then the bed covers were ripped from sleeping children. Hair was pulled with enough force to wake them screaming. 12-year-old Betsy Bell was slapped, scratched, and had her hair violently pulled in the night. Witnesses who stayed at the farm reported the same. Not 1 or 2 people. Dozens. Neighbors, community leaders, and eventually investigators all documented what happened inside that house. The entity was not silent about what it was doing. The voice, which spoke from the air of the farmhouse without visible source, told visitors it was the witch of a neighbor named Kate Batts, with whom John Bell had a land dispute. It called itself Kate. It sang hymns. It quoted scripture with startling accuracy. It conversed with visitors, answered questions, demonstrated knowledge of events happening simultaneously miles away. Kate had preferences. It adored Lucy Bell, the mother, often leaving her gifts of fruit and singing softly near her room. She spoke kindly to her, comforted her, and stayed with her through illness. For Lucy Bell, the entity was something close to protective. For John Bell, it was something else entirely. The targeting of John Bell was methodical and escalating. He was struck repeatedly, slapped across the face, his jaw seized and locked until he could not eat. He began to deteriorate physically, lost weight, lost the ability to swallow, wasted across months while his family watched, and this invisible thing seemed to draw energy from his decline. In 1819, word of the Bell haunting reached General Andrew Jackson, the future president of the United States. Jackson was a man who had survived wars and duels. He was not easily frightened. He traveled to the Bell Farm with a group of men, purportedly to investigate the claims himself. The wagon reportedly stopped on the road approaching the property. The wheels locked. The horses refused to move despite whipping. No mechanical failure was found. After some minutes, a voice came from the air above the road. Some accounts place it in the trees, others simply in the air, announcing its presence and releasing whatever hold it had on the wagon. The party continued to the farm. That night, the witch tamer announced loudly that he had a special bullet to deal with spirits and dared the entity to show itself. The accounts of what happened that night are consistent. Invisible blows rained on the man until he fled the house screaming, begging for mercy. The voice laughed. What happened that night sent Jackson and his party fleeing before dawn. Jackson later told associates he would rather face the entire British Army than spend another night in that house. He never spoke publicly about what he witnessed. His personal correspondence from that period contains a single reference, describing the encounter as the most terrifying experience of his life. No further detail was ever recorded. By late 1820, John Bell had become a man diminished almost beyond recognition. He became thin, weak, unable to eat reliably, prone to sudden episodes of convulsion and paralysis that his family watched with helpless terror. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, John Bell was found unconscious in his bed. A vial of strange liquid was discovered nearby, one that no member of the family had ever seen before. The family cat was given a small amount of the liquid and died within minutes. John Bell died later that day. The official cause of death was listed as unknown. On the morning of his death, witnesses reported hearing laughter in the Bell home, not the laughter of any person present, the voice of Kate singing and celebrating, filling the rooms of the house where John Bell lay dead. When the family members demanded to know what it had done, it told them. It said it had administered the contents of the vial to John Bell while he slept. It named the substance, though accounts vary on whether what it named was identifiable. It said it had finished what it had come to do. After John Bell's death, the manifestations began to subside. The voice grew quieter over weeks, visited less frequently, and finally, in the spring of 1821, delivered something like a farewell. It spoke at length to Lucy Bell and to John Bell Jr., who had kept the most detailed written records of the family's experience. It said it was leaving. It said it would return in 7 years. It named a specific descendant of the Bell line it would revisit in a specific future generation. It left. 7 years later, in 1828, the phenomena reportedly returned briefly to the Bell farm, visiting John Jr. for a period of 2 weeks, discussing philosophy and prophecy with him, and then departing again with the statement that it would return once more, in 100 years, to a specific Bell descendant. That visit, if it ever occurred, was not recorded. John Bell Jr.'s account, written across the years of the haunting and preserved by the family, forms the primary documentary record of the case. It was published in 1894 as An Authenticated History of the Famous Bell Witch, compiled by Martin V. Ingram from the family's materials. Historians have debated its accuracy and embellishment ever since. What they have not debated is that something occurred on that farm between 1817 and 1821 that was witnessed by hundreds of people across Robertson County, including ministers, physicians, soldiers, and ultimately a future president, and that defied, then and now, the explanations available to them. The Bell farm is gone, but the cave on the property, which locals have always called the Bell Witch Cave, remains. It is open to visitors. Tour guides tell the story with the practiced ease of people who have told it 1,000 times. They also tell you, with the quiet seriousness of people who mean it, not to go to the back of the cave alone. Equipment fails there. Cameras malfunction. Visitors report a cold that has no source, and the specific, unnameable sensation of being watched by something that has been watching for a very long time. John Bell is buried in the family cemetery nearby. His stone gives his name, his dates, and nothing more. No account of his suffering, no record of the thing that chose him, pursued him, and by its own declaration, killed him. The stone says only that he lived and that he died. It does not say what stood between the two.